Today, I want to break down a realization I've had over the last 2.5 years. And that realization is the fact that real estate income as cash flow is not the savior that a lot of people think it is, including what I used to think it is. And I want to break it down. So, throughout my NFL career, I was investing in real estate. I owned up to 40 properties. I'm at about 30 now. And when I first got into the NFL, my whole strategy was buy up properties. And, I was paying cash in the Midwest. I was buying properties for $100,000 or less. I was renting them out for $1,200 to $1,400, well above the 1% rule. It was going great. My whole concept was like, I'm going to buy enough to get to 10K and then 15K. So then it would sustain my lifestyle. I'll be able to keep growing even when I'm done playing in the NFL. I won't have to worry about a mortgage, a car note, all of those things. And it worked out great. I do not regret investing and building the real estate portfolio that I have. So I was doing that with the single family properties. I was also investing in syndications all over the country, some debt funds, some multifamily. I was diversifying in location and asset classes, and those have performed well for me. Some are a little shaky now with everything going on in the world of commercial real estate, but for the most part, I'm going to get all my capital back, make good money on those investments. But there's a few things that I've realized, especially since retiring in the NFL and really dialing in on my finances more and more. And what I've realized that I wanted to make sure I share with you is that the cash flow from owning real estate and even the cash flow from investing in long-term syndication plays is not going to save you. I repeat, it's not going to save you. And so many people think that it is. But what I found is, once my goals started to grow, I wanted to hit new goals of cash flow. I started to do the math and I'm like, I cannot buy enough real estate like the way that I have and have enough income generated to sustain my lifestyle, pay taxes, reinvest, do all the things I want to do so I can continue to grow. I'm going to get to a point where I've spent all my money. I've got some cash flow coming in, but it's not as much as I really want. So I can live life, but I'm not able to grow and live as robust as I wanted to. So it sent me down a dive of how do I figure out what to do with my money and where to invest, how to build my real estate portfolio. And thankfully for me, the last few years of my NFL career, I started building relationships with other investors throughout the country and here locally in Arizona. And I was asked to lend to them on some projects. I did a couple of loans, had no idea what I was doing, but I was making really good margins. I was making double-digit, mid-teen returns on my money, and when I retired, I was like, man, all right, I'm averaging an 8 to 10% cash-on-cash return in my real estate portfolio. My syndications, maybe I have an 8% pref, but they don't pay out consistently. At best, it's once a quarter, but some of them isn't till the back end. What can I do that's going to generate the income that I want and I can scale? And I looked at the lending and just a few loans that I did, and I'm like, man, this is done really well. So I started to deep dive and turn it into an actual business, and that's where I started and created 42 Solutions, my lending company. And I went down this deep dive of running and operating businesses, started reading a ton of business books. And up until this point, I was all real estate based. So I read some business books, like I did E-Myth, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I would read some general business books, but I didn't get into the nitty gritty of business because I thought in my head, I'm just a real estate guy. I'm going to read real estate books. Real estate books is all I want to read. And once I started unlocking the business world, they're not looking at an 8 to 12% cash on cash return in business. They're looking at, I'm going to buy this company, or I'm going to start this company, and I'm going to invest $100,000. And if I do it right in the first month, I'm going to get my whole $100,000 back. That's 100% return in a month. That doesn't really happen in real estate. Real estate, you get the tax benefits, the debt pay down, or the pay down from the principal pay down, not the debt pay down. Then you have all the tax benefits. Then you have appreciation. Then you have the hedge against inflation. Then you have the cash flow that's left over. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But on the cash side of it, an 8 to 12% return is a really good cash on cash return on your money in most real estate deals. So I'm like, that's not necessarily high enough. And especially when you're comparing it to what you can make in business transactions. questions. So then I started to really dive into the people I knew in real estate. So I used to separate business from real estate. I used to think they were completely different things, but now I'm starting to see that real estate is just a form of business. And most of the people I know who are doing real estate at a high level, they are operating it as a business. I know very good fix and flippers here locally and throughout the country who are fix and flipping properties. But guess what? They have the systems in place. They have in-house contracting crews, our third party that they use. They got their GC license so they can manage the property themselves. They have a team who's looking for off-market deals. They've systemized their business model for fix and flipping, and now they're able to do it at scale to where maybe they're doing, depending on the market, maybe they're doing a couple of deals a month, a couple of deals a year if they're doing luxury, what have you. But they have their business model, they put the team in place, they put the systems in place, and they're running their fix and flip model as a business. Same with buy and hold and people who buy and hold single family properties. There's many of those type of investors I know who own hundreds of properties. You think they're just buying them one off? No, they've systemized it. They know how to underwrite and dive deep into a market. They're buying distressed assets, and they're maybe in the Midwest. People are buying in Alabama nowadays, and they're buying for $50,000, putting 30 into it and making it worth 200. Then they're renting it out, pulling all their money out, and now cash flowing great. That's an amazing strategy. But what's really putting them over the edge is not that they're doing that on one or two properties. They built the system, they built the teams, they built the infrastructure to do that at scale. So they're doing that with hundreds of properties. So now they're able to build a business on top of real estate. And that's what I want to talk about today is stop looking at real estate as a separate thing from business. That's what I did for a long time. If you're looking to get into real estate, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you just want to own a couple of properties for tax benefits and appreciation, fine. But if you're looking at it as like, I want to invest in real estate to one day for that to replace my income, be a business, I want time freedom, all of these things, well, then you have to build a team, a process, and a system in place to where you can buy that real estate, systemize it, get good returns, and do it at scale so you can get to the point where it's generating enough income. Because 8 to 12% return on a couple of properties is not going to do it unless you're willing to wait 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. But when you can force appreciation from rehabbing, when you can do it at scale and buy 10 properties this year and get them cash flowing, and then buy another 10 next year and compound and grow your wealth and grow the income, that is converting it into a business and allowing you to run a real business that's scaling. So what I look at it now and how I'm doing it now is I'm still a real estate investor, but my main core business is lending, underwriting deals, providing capital to other investors and developers here locally in the Arizona market. And I'm using that to get great access and deal flow all over the Valley of Arizona. So when it is time and I want to cherry pick and buy a property, I have great relationships with contractors. I know other investors that can help me find good deals. So now I'm streamlining the process. I'm running my lending company that's adjacent to just being a real estate investor, and that is my cash cow that is paying for itself, paying for my lifestyle, as well as allowing me to reinvest and grow the business. And as that cash flow gets high enough, I can start to siphon off some of that cash flow to go acquire assets. And if the return's not that high, I'm not worried about it because I have my cash machine in my business, and I'm buying this asset because I believe in the asset. I believe in the tax benefits, the appreciation. I love the principal pay down. I love all the things that come with owning this piece of real estate, but I don't have to focus on it for the cash flow. So my challenge to everybody out there is start to look at real estate as a business and figure out what kind of business within real estate you want to build. And just because I'm telling you you need to own a business does not mean it has to be a crazy active business where you're working 40 hours, 60 hours, 80 hours. I'm running a lending company right now, and I'm not putting 40 plus hours a week in manual labor into the business. I am putting a sufficient amount of time and effort into that, but I built my business in a way that it fits my lifestyle, and I'm able to generate the kind of returns I need to do the things that I want to do personally and professionally in my life. So that's my challenge to everybody out there. Take the shades off and understand that you're really in business, and start to look at real estate as a business and figure out what sector within the real estate space do you want to be in, and do you want to build build your business off of. If it is fix and flipping, do that. Development, do that. Buy a BRRRR strategy. You're going to just buy up a bunch of properties, systemize it, and build that out. If you want to lend, do that. You could actually own a business, own a construction company, own a home services, pest control. Those are all businesses in real estate that are real estate adjacent, that deal with real estate to a certain degree. So you can build businesses that are adjacent. Or if your thing is completely non-real estate based and you want to build some other kind of business, do that and use some of the income to then buy properties and get the tax benefits and all the other things that come with owning real estate. But I wanted to kind of change the whole dynamic here on cash flow because it doesn't really compare. If you're somebody who wants to replace their income, then just trying to buy a couple of properties is not the move. You need to look at it as, what business am I going to run and operate, and how can I run and operate a business that fits my lifestyle? And if that business is within real estate, then fantastic. That's going to be my thing for the rest of my life, because I have a strategic advantage within the real estate space because I've been doing it for 10, 12 years now. But now my focus has shifted into the business of real estate, not just owning real estate. And that's the challenge I have for everybody out there. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this changes some people's perspective out there, and let's keep building.